Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the most Terran player out there, the former world champion in the red. It's ByuN, Micro Jackson, facing off against arguably the best Protoss player in the world in the blue, the mysterious MaxPax. In a best of 5, Terran versus Protoss Grand Finals. And whether you're a fan of ByuN's original series or MaxPax with the next generation, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Before we get started, help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? What? 1,692 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better as MaxPax sending out the first Adept right before the Reaper comes in, and these probes are going to get a little bit worse. And not for long, though, as the first one is picked off, second Adept comes out. Already a bit of a back-and-forth start. ByuN anticipating committing his Reaper across the map, already built the command center on the high ground, because the Terran invented a newfangled technology the Protoss haven't been able to wrap their faces around. Doors. Yes, the ability to shut down the Adept at the door and make it so he finishes his command center uncontested. So, many Terrans will argue that you lose a bit of mining time when you bring the command center down. It has to float all the way over. Takes a lot of fuel. Doesn't burn very efficiently, but a couple SCVs for the safety and security of the rest of your build. Small price to pay, especially if the Reaper's able to pick off 2 probes. Already got a very good idea that MaxPax is going down the most well-trodden road. The Blink Stalkers, with a robo on the way. Command center gonna try to float down. A single cyclone, I believe. Well, okay. So MaxPax rubbed his ethereal nose against the door for long enough to see the tech lab, and obviously, well, apparently rubbed it so hard it's in the yellow, which, not sure what that means, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about it. Meanwhile, though, Cyclone gonna lock on. Stalker. Cyclone relatively fragile. The SCVs, the boys are pulled. Citizen's Arrest locks onto the Stalker. Gonna chase it down. SCV's almost killing one of the Adepts. Dances past. Goes from downtown and somehow manages to knock out the Stalker. Absolutely beautiful and absolutely disgusting. And oh my. ByuN. No survivors. No witnesses. No Protoss. The 3 rules of Terran. He manages to pick off every single unit, drops out the Marines behind, and now carrying the Cyclone across the map, repaired all the way to full. There's a Banshee with Cloak on the way. MaxPax, with a relatively late third base, was focused on building up the Stalker, kind of making sure he had all that tech behind, and so far that oh, wow, the Cyclone just obliterating it. Only 2 shots from the lock-on. But MaxPax, not to be outdone, gonna send his own Warp Prism across the map, be able to drop out some of the Stalkers, or just blink up to the high ground. Thing is, though, MaxPax not too far ahead on workers, and with the addition of mules, the income not looking amazing for the Danish Protoss. He needs to get something done with the Stalkers. It looks like ByuN actually built his first barracks so the Reaper could get across a little more quickly. Which, you know, is a very ByuN thing to do. But the 4-Stalker hit squad coming in, snipes off 2 SCVs, gets a Marine, continues juggling past. Very well done so far, but the Warp Prism! Whoa, you cannot be losing that thing. Meanwhile, nope, this is it. I thought there might be something happening on the other side that MaxPax was distracted by, but no. The Stalkers get 4 SCVs, but ends up losing another couple of them. One of them from the attack earlier. So, oh, and a Cloak Banshee in the main. Injury to insult as the Banshee gonna force, he recalls an observer. Look, he's right there. I don't know. He had to recall an observer just to see the Banshee fly away into the corner, which is humiliating at best. But back at home, the SCVs contesting their fellow mechanical units in an aggressive fashion, and still somehow able to box him out. ByuN chasing him down. Meanwhile, Medevac comes in, picks off another probe, but MaxPax is starting to trickle in the damage. The siege tank, unsieged, still has more DPS on a single target, but the tanks on the high ground awkwardly. Immortal Guardian Shield targets the sentry, pops it easily. Meanwhile, the Banshee adding a lot of damage. The Immortal barrier triggered, and there's almost nothing else left behind. The Immortal living up to its name so far, blasting through the siege tanks. And, well, there's still one siege tank. And that is, can he not? The Zealot blinks over to the side. What sort of hero mission is this? The siege tank is finally taken down. The Banshee cloaks. The Cyclone is back. A whirlwind of destruction from ByuN. In almost every base at once, and there's still a Banshee in the back corner. There's a Banshee in the front corner. There's a Cyclone in the medevac, and somehow ByuN gets away with all of it. The Observer is out of position. MaxPax is quickly running out of probes, and finally the Cyclone will be brutally charged down. But this Banshee is gutting a significant portion of the entire Protoss economy. The worker count is dead even. The supplies tilt in favor of the Korean Terran, and ByuN got the damage done and then some. How does he have another Banshee? I mean, I know how he has another Banshee. That was a dumb question, but it was obviously rhetorical. As so far, ByuN building 3 Banshees, which, you know, classic ByuN, Micro Jackson, with one of the most microable units in the entire game. Honestly, Banshee Micro is kind of the most satisfying thing out there as well. But, Now, War Prism still coming in, dropping. Zealot bombing the SCVs and trying to draw the siege tank fire because the Zealots themselves not able to get that much done. Almost kills half the mineral line with the assistance of the tanks. Unfortunately, not quite able to land it. ByuN, that constant stream of aggression. And the Banshee, no one expects a third Banshee. All right, 1 Banshee, kind of crazy. 2 Banshees, huge commitment. 3 Banshees, right out. But ByuN rejects your metagame and substitutes his own. 8 probe kills, just lets the Banshee go. The former Cyclone drop medevac, now a solo act. Definitely not as dramatic there, but just sitting back in the corner, anchoring. So MaxPax probably knows that's empty and there's nothing left, but like, 1, why let it come home? Speaking of, War Prism knockdown. And 2, there's still a chance there's something in there. You can't be 100% sure. You be like 99.74269, repeating, of course, percent sure, but still. So ByuN moving out. He's got the upgrades finally completing. Almost 10 minutes in, we're only getting the basic bio upgrades now. One of the siege tanks is picked off. There is only 1 medevac. That's the big limiting factor so far, is the lack of starport units. Because ByuN went for 3 Banshees, which means his reactor and starport production was a bit delayed. Psionic Storm, though, on the other hand, being chrono boosted out. Still quite late in the game for it, but it should be available by the time the Terran army arrives. A low economy game, even for a low economy matchup. As MaxPax has yet to get a 4th Nexus, the Storms will lightly drizzle a few Marines, but not find any success otherwise. Once again, the Zealots are confounded by door-based technology, and ByuN has found another corner to jam his siege tanks into. And right now, MaxPax looking pretty obtuse. Drops into the main. Meanwhile, though, here comes MaxPax from 3 different angles. The main base, 20 supply committed to somewhere that can't help the tanks. And he just blasts right through them, trying to divide and conquer. But I'm not sure who's getting the better end of this so far. Only a couple probes going down. Zealots warped in. Targets the +1 attack of the Forge. 2/3 done. It has to be restarted at a later date. And ByuN picks up and he gets out. But we have to ask ourselves that eternal caster question. At what cost? And have you liked and subscribed? The double drop escapes, but he only kills 5 probes. Honestly, I think getting the +1 ground weapons is by far the most important part of that. The fact that ByuN is able to maintain this upgrade lead in this matchup, which is notorious for low upgrades, there's no armory. There's no chance for 2-2. This is more time that ByuN will have a relatively cheap advantage. And does he have any ghosts on the field? Not right now, and that means the Storms will hit home. A Marauder is obliterated. There are 4 Immortals with this unit composition. Just using the Immortal. Where are you going? Where are you going? The medevacs just fly off into the sunset. The boys are pulled. EMP hits all the Templar. But wait, another one around the corner. It's the storm you least expect. The Immortals still blasting, but with all the SCVs drawing fire, they're not able to focus on the more important things in life. And so far, not going to have much life at all. The SCVs! The Citizen's Arrest takes down the Immortals, but it costs him 21 SCVs. ByuN drops back. It looks like the Warp Prism? A Warp Prism got taken out. Yes! A Warp Prism by a casual Whittle Mine. Meanwhile, EMP effectively evaporates the Archons. Stalkers coming in from the north side. Charge lots continue to pile through. Medevacs drifting through the enemy army on a constant basis. ByuN struggling to keep anything in the air, whereas MaxPax struggling to have anything on the ground. We're down to 100 supply again, 12 minutes into the match. A brutal exchange for both sides. Over almost 25,000 resources lost in just 12 minutes. Both of them struggling to get much more than a mediocre economy. MaxPax had the Observer. He knows the map is dark and full of Terrans, and ByuN wants to keep it that way. Knocks the Observer out of the sky. The medevacs in autumn colors are going to need to be repaired because storm season is not yet over. Stalkers come in. Another medevac goes out. You can't explain that. More charge lots over to the right side. Things slow down for a moment, but the tension continues to mount. Okay. What a start from these two. The Immortal caught around the corner. Concussive shells breaks its fragile knees. Chases down the sentry, which is also affected by concussive as well. We don't know how that works. Zealot's ghost pops into the bunker. Can't cast any of its fancy abilities from there, but it's equipped with a gun ability, which is, you know, quite powerful. Can I get a hell yeah, brother? Meanwhile, the Templar with its fancy cape calling down the psionic storm and forcing ByuN away for now. 140 to 130 supply. The battle continues. Still very... look at the upgrades. It is 1-1. And just now is MaxPax rebuilding +1 attack. Because these armies are so dangerous. Between EMP and Storm, it's much more important to have the right units than it is to have a little bit better upgrades for your more conventional ones. Storm and EMP both completely ignore your upgrades. Oh my, takes down another one. Just, wow, the cataclysmic storms on the front line. MaxPax able to break through, but ByuN trying to catch it between a rock and a hard place. Behind that, the tech switch is coming up. Multiple robotics facilities. Robo Bay is on the way. And even with +0 upgrades, which is just, you know, no upgrades, the storms continuing to rain down. MaxPax powering through. But you gotta be careful, he has the high ground. And I honestly have no idea what's going on down there. It's a mess, and we're just gonna have to see who survives it. Microing the Marauders into the medevacs and dropping them back out on the other side of the Zealots. What a play from ByuN. Somehow catches the Observer on the edge, knocks out another one. One of the most chaotic games I've seen in a long time. And it's not the least bit surprising the names on the screen. But in comes another round. Whittle Mine slams into one Zealot. The rest will avenge it immediately. Storm zone out the army, and the rocks are knocked down simultaneously to buy some more time for MaxPax at his fort. ByuN, at 42 SCVs, has been on a shoestring economy, but thankfully the Terrans replaced it with automation a while ago. Finally, knocks out the Zealots. MaxPax still with a slight supply lead. These Stalkers also offered up. Did he actually pick off a Viking? Anyways, extended thermal lance is on the way. Mine's already completely there. The Stalkers just keep coming up and blinking back. The fadeaway shot. +2 ground weapons in production for MaxPax. Neither of these players letting up for nearly 40,000 resource in 15 minutes. It's mad. I can't even form sentences because by the time I finish them, something else dramatic is going to be happening. Another Zealot. The thing is, neither player really has the reliable economy in order to constantly send out attacks. They're building up. MaxPax has a better one, but he's teching up very quickly. ByuN is effectively all in. He hasn't built an SCV for, like, half of the game. And he doesn't seem to be interested in doing so anytime soon. The main base is mined out. Viking count is starting to trickle upwards. but our Danish players should be very well aware of how much of a threat they are. Meanwhile, 2-2 is finally on the way. Begrudgingly, kicking and are probably screaming. ByuN's like, okay, fine. Macro game it is. EMP, I can't tell if the medevacs are out of energy because of EMP or because they just are enabling the stim habit, but more storms come down. The thermal lance is grinding through. A few Vikings are finally going to be washed out of the sky. More Colossi trickling in. Somehow this fight results in almost entirely mutually assured destruction, as both players suffering heavy losses and get knocked down to double-digit supply. What a brutal engagement. The main command center is floating north. The factory is floating out. ByuN focusing on the... He's built a couple more SCVs. He's repairing. Those medevacs will take down the destructible rock tower and block out the more obvious path here. MaxPax with yet another observer trying to keep vision. The biggest danger here is ByuN catching him slightly out of position and then snowballing that fight into a winning engagement. So far, MaxPax has been able to stave that off because the best defense is a good offense. But as soon as ByuN can get aggressive, there's the risk he just runs you over with that ridiculously efficient composition. So... well, Templar being added in. 2 flavors of splash damage. Well, technically 3, but I'd say Archons are more of a topping. Maybe they're like a salad, and the Templar are the dressing. Which wouldn't make sense to the Protoss, and they don't have mouths, and doesn't make sense to me because I don't eat salad. Not because I have like spinach or something, which I'm old now. But without, like, what am I gonna do? Dressing is like pure sugar. Which, I'll get it somewhere else. Alright. Tell your mother to call. And also, that's the most American thing. Like, we have... salad dressing is effectively 94% high fructose corn syrup and 6% sadness. That is, believe it or not, what it's made out of. Alright, look it up. Four Colossi. Some High Templar underneath, near full energy. The storm's on the bridge. But who will break first? Ghosts out in front. Throws out an EMP. Misses the mark on most, but it does hit the Colossi. Potentially get some permanent damage with the Vikings. Storm, a great historical and practical counter to him. Storms wards him away from the ramp, the most dangerous force field, but the Vikings just pushing forward. Knocked down one of the Colossi, still 3 of them. 2-1 upgrades. ByuN up to 47 SCVs. Wow. But at the same time, MaxPax has maintained the income except for a single dip into Mule Valley. The mountains of MaxPax have been maintained. He's at 199 supply to 160 out of ByuN. ByuN has 4 bases scattered out throughout his quadrant. MaxPax is going on 6. 78 to 50 workers. 2-1 to 2-2 upgrades in favor of ByuN. He's going to press that advantage. The army supply is dead even at 115. Knocks out a half dozen probes at the start of the fight. Snipes out a Templar. Intercepts the Colossi coming down the ramp, but he has to be very careful not to be caught, but the storms can hit everything. The Vikings in a beautiful position. Knocks out another Colossus. Now the Vikings eating most of the storm, but their work here is mostly done. One Colossus stands for just a moment, and the shield battery will top it off and then run out of energy immediately. MaxPax kind of trickling into that fight, and ByuN taking full advantage. Finally, another command center completed, as ByuN has made it back up to the 50 SCV mark. Despite the inefficiency of that engagement, MaxPax still has the income. He still has 72 probes. He's now got 3-2 upgrades, finally taking the lead over ByuN, who's kind of been nickel and diming everything here so far. That one Colossus stands. 7 HP. An EMP and a Lego away from death. Tripping over it. The Blink Stalker's just constantly getting pickoffs at the very edge of the fight. But ByuN has managed... MaxPax is so great at the small skirmishes, but ByuN is a master of the big engagement. Alright. So often, he wins games by just picking a fight at the perfect time and turning everything around. DJ ByuN with the base drop usually makes all the difference. But so far, MaxPax has done a great job of zoning him out. 127 to 112 army supply. Cuts off the flank. EMP. Vikings. Another volley just knocks out a Colossus. But MaxPax is still nearly maxed out, and he's packed his bags, sent him across the map. Things have slowed down dramatically since the early exchanges, as the economies become more fragile. After those first couple bases start modding out, MaxPax is going to try to chew through the rocks. Vikings over the top. But it might be a bit of a bait here. As MaxPax setting up with his Templar. Oh, gets a storm, but gets sniped in turn. Vikings, decent concave. Templar a little out of position. A lot of ghosts being incinerated by the Colossi. Still, great snipes out of ByuN. Not interrupted at all, and now chasing it back. He's decided this is the fight. The EMPs, where are the Templar? One off to the right. The storm's mediocre. ByuN driven back. But now chasing down, there's not a single storm in this army. Against the might of a bunch of dudes with drugs, guns, and a hatred of any sort of illegal alien. ByuN making me feel right at home. And just stimming and winning his way across the map as soon as he's able to wipe out the energy of the Templar. Somehow MaxPax is down 15 supply. He'll rebuild, but ByuN has snuck right back into it. The Colossi unable to carve out a critical mass of the bio before the Vikings find a location to take them down. Managing Colossi and Templar, then making sure your gateway units don't just trickle into their death, is a constant struggle. MaxPax has been unable. We haven't really seen what's like a charge lock counterattack ByuN already set up to deal with. Very well positioned, but the storms on the ramp soften up another round. MaxPax is expanding to that bottom right corner. And we're 24 minutes in. Well past the average game length of Terran versus Protoss. And it feels like we're further from a conclusion than we were 5 minutes ago. I would have said MaxPax has it almost locked in, but ByuN has wriggled out. But he loses a couple ghosts trying to take down a cannon, which is not exactly ideal. Does land some EMPs. There's more storm, though. There's always more storm. The Templar gliding up. The Vikings over the top. Yet another Colossus will be toppled, but a storm parts the Red Sea. And ByuN starting to lose the critical mass of bio. The medevacs, many of them out of energy. No fusion core, no Caduceus reactor. No advanced ballistics, just a brawl in the midfield. We'll fight again. More storms coming through. Has one more on the back line. The Viking count has dwindled dramatically. The Colossi continue just high-stepping their way across the map. The Templar continue trickling forward with their fancy capes. And the Protoss are keeping the army together. Whereas ByuN has been driven back, but not yet driven out. The Viking count suffering dramatically. But a good concave for ByuN. MaxPax biting off more than he could metaphorically chew yet again as he tries to come up the ramp. Where are the EMPs? Those Templar in a very precarious. He lands one. I think he got them all, but is there enough bio underneath? Knocks down another set of Colossi. That's one. That's two. And only one more remains. Drops back to his own natural. Vikings taken out, but he will just stim down and target the Colossus with the Marauder. Archons going to be evaporated by the bio. SCVs are pulled off the line of the third base again, and somehow we're back to 150 versus 125 supply. Both these players pummeling the other into almost mutually assured annihilation. MaxPax has lost 53,000 resources, including 13 Colossi. Oh my. The Titans fall. And again, MaxPax goes forward, but right into the possibly best concave of ByuN. Another Colossus gonna be caught. The Marauder's gonna stim and knock it down. But another storm wades right through it. ByuN suffering heavy. MaxPax is losing so much. But for the most part, it seems like he can afford to. Losing now 14 Colossi, 16 Archons, 11 Immortals. He's lost more Zealots than ByuN has lost Marines. Not that ByuN is building that many Marines. 4 medevacs at a time. Could have really benefited from Caduceus Reactor. The Natural has now floated into the 9 o'clock position as ByuN has been on a shoestring economy this entire time. And his entire army has had to share that string between them. Some more Zealots taken out. The floating factory scouting at this point, his factory units are pretty much obsolete, or at least ByuN is treating him like that. MaxPax still struggling to max out, despite his literally 10 minutes straight of mild to massive economic lead. And MaxPax has not yet been able to pin it down. Now, well, that's 5 Colossi against 0 Vikings. Those numbers don't lie. And they spell disaster for ByuN. He's got a colossal problem right now. He went back into medevac production, like he loves to do so much. And that, like, this is it. This is the moment. He can't know there are no Vikings right now. But as an observer, or with an observer, seeing that, it's free real estate. Like, the Viking count, right now, MaxPax backing off. Of course, he has 3 out of 4 corners right now for the classic bingo 4-corner win strategy. Ghosts being incinerated by the cauterizing fire of nearly half a dozen Colossi, which are struggling to step up the ramp and actually get into the fight simultaneously. But ByuN takes the supply lead and has 30 more army supply. But those are Colossi and Templar. 3-3. And here we go. I keep thinking it's gonna be the last battle and we just keep going. But through all the fire and fury, another base is taken down. Storms. Colossi lancing through the Vikings. Might be able to knock down one. This concave is massive for both sides. The Marauders getting dropped on top, but the Zealots just eviscerating them. Vikings take down more, and that's too much. MaxPax finally brings together a critical mass of Colossi, and even if ByuN could have eventually knocked it down, it was never going to be enough because MaxPax has like 3/4 of the bases on the map. MaxPax loses 15,000 more resources. He almost loses the same amount of units as a Terran player, but he does not lose the game. Wow. It's not about being cost effective. It's just about being effective. Stamina, determination, tenacity, stubbornness. All words I might use in order to describe. Now, there is no better ground-based unit composition. Against a tenacious Terran, it's very difficult to end the game. I'm sure many of those who've had the pleasure of laddering at any point know that. But ByuN, to be honest, doing an incredible job of staying alive. Staying alive. But MaxPax, despite the fact it looked like MaxPax was making mistakes, he can leverage that economy. And, okay, that just sounds like I'm talking about, you want to talk about my quarterly reports? All right, we're going to leverage the economy of clickbait in order to maximize the amount of people smashing that like button and subscribing. And the sort of throughput we'd like is not as high as it could be. Just like, well, actually, we need a radical disruption in the meta space right now. No, we're not talking about Big Zuck, but instead, ByuN do it. Now, I would say this is radical, but I've seen ByuN do this on this map to Protoss players, like, over 50% of the games. Now, I've only seen like 7 or 8 series of ByuN playing against Protoss on this map. But this is like the 5th time he's gone for this proxy place here in the corner. And I'm sure it won't be the last. But the fact that Protoss players are not scouting it, you know, the fact that Maybe he's like keeping track of which Protoss players he's bamboozled with this. Option 2 is MaxPax just doesn't care. So there's that. That's a potential. But factory is on the way. And well, the Reaper's gonna get in. And there's nothing to do. He's gonna have to pull the probes off the line. This disgusting yet effective cheese knocks down one of the probes. Just kiting back. There's going to be losses, but so far MaxPax's doing a great job of mitigating the circuit. If he gets the Reaper, he's just gonna come back in. And the probe? Just one? Huh. That could have gone so much worse. An incredible defense from MaxPax. I think the "I know what you're doing, but I don't care" response may have been the correct one. As now ByuN, what did he gain? This is just a worse position than last guy. He's gonna kill the scouting probe with the second Reaper. But and that's it. Like, he's got a starport on the way. Twilight Council's halfway done. But overall, it just feels like a worse position. Early game starport or just air units in general are definitely going to be troublesome. But I'm more and more convinced that MaxPax is like, he's doing the proxy by the gold wall again, isn't he? Just like, I'll micro. Just micro. And if you can't defend it with just micro, that's a skill issue. In the most literal sense. One of those sort of defenses that MaxPax can get away with, but if I did on the ladder, I would have lost 6 probes, and somehow the Stalker would have run to the other side of the map without attacking. You know. The singular Widowmine drop. An existential threat, yet the most budget-efficient one. Boosts into the back corner, brings it around. Drops it out. Slams it home. Oh, retargeting, recalculating. In this purgatory moment, you can... Oh. Could have gone better, could have gone worse. Not great, not terrible. If he gets the medevac, though, which can fly off into what I assume is a World of Warcraft map. This looks like, maybe it's just the music that's doing it, but... Just to break down the fourth wall for a singular moment while we have a lull in the action. The mix in the background is a Best of Blizzard from when they were the best. StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo. Just search Best of Blizzard, StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo. It's about an hour long. You'll find it. And hopefully you agree. Don't think too hard. It's about 50% StarCraft, though, so I deem it appropriate. And most of my teenage socialization was in World of Warcraft, so just saying. Blink Stalkers, Siege Tank, zones them out. Cloak Banshees again. I forgot about the Cloak Banshees last game, but now remembering them half an hour later. But the warp... Oh, this is awkward. The SC... Billy! I have a permit. Yeah, but these are exigent circumstances. I have a permit. And don't think the Warp Prism would have been taken out, but the SCV casually coming up and slapping down a depot in front of the Marines is, didn't help. Double Cloak Banshees. So, he knows about the Cloak Banshees. He knows they're coming across the map. But does he realize it's too cloak? Once again, ByuN just gonna keep committing to cloak banshees until they work. There's no... Well, he tries to sneak in, but MaxPax splitting the difference with the observer. Knocks one out of the sky. The second one taking some damage as well. Triple threat on the way. Stim, combat shield, +1. The Widow Mine. The medevac died so you could live. Retargeting. Gets another probe. I think another one from the gas as well. Templar Archives. Now in production, going straight towards Storm. MaxPax has finally embraced... Well, we saw it last game as well, but MaxPax has finally embraced that mass Storm style. I guess he was kind of doing it before the World Cup. Did not participate because we all know he's an AI construct based on Dark's happier side. And also the Prince of Denmark, who has other obligations, like beating nerds on the internet. And also a golden retriever. That level of multitasking is just not allowed in most high-level tournaments. Moving on. Stalkers can be driven back by the siege tank push. Marauders and Marines alongside. And, well, the Stalker's going to be able to thin this out, but this is actually quite a dangerous push. Despite the shenanigans earlier, despite the Banshees being shut down, Storm is still a long way off. There's not that many units. Is charge done? It is. Combat shield not being done. Is MaxPax going to try to pull the trigger as soon as possible, but the force fields... emotional support fields there actually block one of the tanks from being killed by charge lots. The probe's getting chased down into the corner. Oh, wow. It's a massacre. Almost every single probe slaughtered. 15 probes dead. The damage is already done. And in fact, he may just lose the force field because that'll show him. Targeting down now. You see the value of Guardian Shield and reducing the damage. But a drop in the main. DJ ByuN back at it again. Widow Mine takes down a Stalker, and the damage just keeps piling on. Psy Storm done. He's chrono boosting, but for who? He's chrono boosting it out of reflex, but he doesn't even have a Templar. Energy recharge is 30 seconds out. It's a disaster. MaxPax. 28 probes dead. 30 supply gap. Not able to get one of the medevacs on the way out. He warps in some Stalkers to intercept, but ByuN anticipates it and joins up with the main army and boosts away again. Pre-dropping out. And, well, he gets one of the medevacs, but a consolation prize at best. Wow, what a disaster. Templar recharged. Storm is everything. Unfortunately, when the Terran is on a superior economy, they don't need to care about Storm nearly as much. Usually what happens is the Protoss has a slightly better economy, so they can buffer their Storms with enough units that they can't really split their units in a way that mitigates. But here, well, ByuN is... That's one way to counter the drop. That's 4 Widow Mines as well. ByuN just committing to the mine drop. Down the center, knocks out another. Oh no, he pulled too late. 5 probes, 8 probes. But wait, there's more. Some charge lots in the third. Stalkers at the natural. Main base though, the Widow Mines will burrow. He warps in. 11 workers dead on either side. The Storms. He's going right up the ramp. The medevacs themselves. The boys are pulled off the line. MaxPax actually making a lot of progress here. And needs to continue to do so. He doesn't have any more Storms. The Bio army just tearing through the rest. The Immortal and Sentry left behind. And it looked pretty good, but then the medevac started healing. The Storms ran dry. And MaxPax down 20 supply. But why do we always have this sort of brutal exchange? These two just laying into one another. Haymaker after haymaker. All in after pretty much all in. The economy's shattered. The army's a pale shadow of what they could be in a more macro-oriented game. The entertainment value in order of magnitude higher. But this time around, ByuN getting the better end of the early game exchange. MaxPax gonna try. He has Templar spread out throughout, trying to catch the army off guard. His best chance is jumping ByuN, but he spots every Templar gliding, and he knows exactly what you're trying to pull at him. It's a Platinum League bait right there, not a Master. But instead, ByuN just gonna chill on the high ground. He has enough ghosts. He has more ghosts than there are Templar. It'll take a couple EMPs to wipe these out, but a single snipe could do the job, or, you know, just a few dudes. Storm has a short cooldown, which is usually not too relevant, except when a single Templar is getting chased. Just one very dead ghost. But MaxPax is spread far too thinly here. That Storm just wades through it. There's just not much back at home. Right? Another Templar. GG. ByuN cleans up and equalizes the series 1-1. MaxPax underestimating his commitment, struggling to deal with the multi-pronged attacks, and now finding himself in an incredibly awkward position. That's what ByuN can do with the economic lead, as opposed to taking so much damage early. You give him the tools and, well, he's a master craftsman. Grandmaster, probably, to be honest. Oh my. Jimmy, why are we doing... Anyways, why did we skip here? What do you mean ByuN said it was embarrassing? I don't... ByuN attempts a proxy Rex. Gets spotted by the probe. It gets canceled. And now he's gonna go command center first. Which is not good. Getting some whiplash there. As this time ByuN, of course, comes in again with the Proxy Reaper, and MaxPax just scouts it. I think he just sent the probe slightly off to the side. Which, you know, that's usually where you put your proxies, is slightly off the beaten path. What a mess. So, if MaxPax just does a middle-of-the-road normal build, he's ahead. He's already ahead. He's up a couple workers. There's going to be no way at all to put on pressure. Right now, ByuN doesn't have any. He's not going to have a Reaper. The Reaper should have already been out. I'm not sure what ByuN's plan is now. Besides, hope MaxPax does an all-in and fails or something like that, but... This... I don't like to be the... Well, he's so far behind, I don't know why he's playing, but... The room for error for MaxPax here is immense. Whereas, at this stage of the game, ByuN could do nothing wrong, but as long as MaxPax does not mess it up dramatically, he's so far ahead. Like, the minute we're watching the Adept just have a meet and greet with the tech lab right here, they even got delayed out his second supply depot, which isn't a big deal because he has a second command center, but... This is the most important minute of the early game. Right as the first unit... Oh my, is he just gonna get in? Kills an SCV. This is... It's not getting any better. Alright, well... Kills 3 SCVs in total. Gets out with one of the Adepts. MaxPax up 11 workers. Third command site. That is one way. This is the... Well, if I don't die, I might be okay. Which is the first step to living. Pro tip. Alright, like and subscribe for existential dread, but... This... Blink is almost done. Stalkers trundling across the map. Siege tank. Nearly complete. That'll keep him going for a little while longer. Just a classic blink timing. The Stalkers will eat some of the hits, but knock out some more Marines. The Warp Prism being chrono boosted tells a story in and of itself. If you're not going for aggression, you'll usually use that on probes, but... Alright, ByuN will have a one. He was actually supply blocked for his second tank, which certainly is not going to help. Blinks back, just pick it off a couple more, knock it out the depot. And, well, warps in a couple more Stalkers. You're gonna blunk on the tank. Yep, blunks on the tank. Takes out the Cyclone, takes out ByuN. Match point, MaxPax. Wow. That game could have been an email. The utter failure in order... Now, ByuN knows, after 15 years of professional play, you don't just tap out when your proxy fails. He did everything he could from that point in order to try to turn it around. Unfortunately, barring going to MaxPax's non-existent house and unplugging his Ethernet cord, I'm not exactly sure what more was left to be done. Maybe some crazy... It wasn't going to happen. Alright, so MaxPax formalizes match point. We'll see that ByuN has finally returned to his main base to build a barracks. What is this wall? Is he just preempting it again? Confirming. Does he get all the way into the main? Didn't actually scout the gases. But command center will be spotted, and that gives away the fact it's one gas. And likely, not always, but likely a Marine. MaxPax knows all the timings, pulls back exactly when he needs to. Alright, not late, not too late, not too early. Alright, probes are like wizards. I never saw Gandalf pull a photon cannon out of his backpack. Okay. Why didn't he simply warp in to Mount Doom? What a new skill issue. Still, this might be a proxy Marauder defense wall. Because having the pylon here means you can build a shield battery potentially on the low ground, or build it on the high ground and use it to defend your natural. I think he was anticipating another proxy, but of a different flavor out of ByuN, which would be on brand. But ByuN falls back to the basics. Now, command center completed on the high ground. It's gonna be a Cyclone. Adept comes in, looks around, goes out. Job's finished. Starport on the way. We got another Widowmine drop lined up. Is he queuing up a barrack? Yeah. Gonna have a second Rax as well. Oh, the Cyclone intercepting the Adepts. Or the other way around. No, definitely the first one. Knocks out one. The other one will escape. Robotics facility begins. Medevac is now on the way. But just the threat of the Widowmine drop is sometimes enough to equalize things. It's very important. As we saw last game, if the Terran is unable to put on any sort of pressure, or at least threaten it, you just kind of get run over. The blink timing, the timing before blink finishes is quite thin, but very important to exploit as best you can. A starport with a tech lab. Is he gonna go cloak Banshees? I'm gonna go cloak Banshees in every matchup all the time because I like Banshees, which is a very ByuN thing to do. But double mine drop at the back. Stalkers coming forward. Adept casually strolls into the main, actually completes. Stalker's being chased down. Widow Mines. Oh, almost kills his own medevac. Might end up losing it. Ooh, bit disastrous. Couple more Stalkers take it out, but lost the Cyclone as well. This Adept just wandering around the base. Gonna rack up, has 3 kills and counting, and might actually escape. Ooh. 8 HP, 4 kills, 0 fucks. That Adept gets away with murder and compounds a lot of the basic issues that ByuN has having so far. Just unable to get anything done. He lost the medevac, he lost the Widow Mines, and he lost some SCVs, and hasn't really slowed down MaxPax at all. Gonna go out in front. Looks like he's gonna use the Adept to try to draw fire. Well, that was a disjointed blink. Looks like he'll eventually get there though. The siege tank, unsieged, doesn't want to commit it to siege mode where the Stalkers can just blink away or on top of it. But the boys are pulled. Ghetto blinking back with the Prism. Meanwhile, Banshee in the main does not have Cloak. Blink Stalker is going to take full advantage of that. More Stalkers, but several of them badly bruised. Doesn't care. Gets into the natural. Marines pulled off the line. The Mules and SCVs alike. This may be a bit much here. The Stalkers just walk out. MaxPax losing a lot. 7 Stalkers dead in that engagement, but gutting much of the economy. ByuN angling for Stim, Combat Shield does not... Well, I'm sorry, I said Combat Shield out of Reflex, but just Stim. No Combat Shield, +1 on the way, knocks out the Observer. There we go, the triple threat. I think it's going to come down to that. Whether or not it can find the critical damage. And right now, it's looking difficult at best. Templar Archives halfway done. War Prism in the main, taking up residence. Squatting there with the Stalkers. The Banshee comes in and kills off 3 probes, but I guess it kind of reached its expiration date against an army that's full of Blink Stalkers, so. Storm is on the way. Immortals, I love the addition of the Immortals early. I think a big weak point is having those strong kind of backbone units. That charge lots are strong but forward. Stalkers are flimsy. Colossi are somehow much like Stalkers, just with fancier weapons. But it's the Immortals that can form the backbone of the army, so the Storms can actually get it done. ByuN just targeting. That Marauder needs to be taken down. He's actually just going to take out the medevac. There may have been an opportunity if he just continued focusing on it to snipe off the Templar Archives, but the Marines are boxed out. The attack is coming across the map. The Observers will see this on either side. He knows ByuN is effectively all in. The Templar, a single Templar right now. There is a Warp Prism somewhere to potentially juggle it, but instead it's on the other side with charge lots dropping into the main. The charge lots coming forward. Gonna blink, able to hit one of the tanks. The Immortal holding the line on the other side, and that's it. It's all over. ByuN already hamstrung by the early aggression. MaxPax holds it down. After a dramatic couple of games, MaxPax picks up the pace, and ByuN unable to keep up. Blink, and you'll miss it. But MaxPax showing off his, why he's still considered one of the best Protoss, despite his somewhat unique circumstances. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you for watching. Be awesome if you could smash that like button and subscribe. And if you got the means and motivation, check out Patreon, YouTube membership. Thank you. Mule tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin, Door, Kate, Mario, Suit. Glad you still enjoy. Hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.